Hey there, my amazing royal watchers. I hope you're all having a fantastic day so far. Welcome to another episode of Untold Royal Secrets. It's your favorite royal critic back here again, and today we're diving into the absolutely delicious takedown of Prince Harry by his former royal protection officer, Ken Wharf. This man, who once dedicated his life to protecting Harry, William, and Princess Diana, has just fired a brutal broadside at our favorite royal runaway. And I am absolutely living for it. So now here's what happened. After Harry's humiliating defeat in the Court of Appeal over his security arrangements in the UK, instead of accepting the ruling with dignity and grace, what does he do? Run straight to the BBC for another pity party interview where he claims he's the victim of a good old-fashioned establishment stitch-up. Can you believe the audacity? This man simply cannot take responsibility for anything, can he? Ken Wharf, who actually knows what he's talking about when it comes to royal protection, isn't having any of it. He described Harry's claims as really offensive. And coming from someone who once put their life on the line to protect him, that's a devastating assessment. Wharf didn't mince his words, saying Harry has played the wrong card in his approach to security concerns after abandoning his royal duties in 2020. Let's break this down, shall we? Wharf made the perfectly reasonable point that Harry cannot expect the same level of protection he received when he was a working royal. I don't see how he can expect to get full protection when he arrived back in the UK, when he is no longer a member working the royal family, when he knows that the actual security package comes at the expense of the British taxpayer. Wharf stated it's basic common sense. You can't quit your job and then demand to keep all the perks. What's particularly telling is Wharf's exasperation with Harry's refusal to accept the unanimous verdict of every authority that has examined his case. The High Court has seen that. The Appeal Court has seen it. The government has seen it. The police have seen it. So where's the problem? This is the frustration of a professional who understands that security decisions aren't made on whims or personal vendettas. They are based on careful risk assessments by people whose job it is to make these determinations. But Harry, in his bubble of entitlement, can't seem to grasp that. In that BBC interview, he claimed he can't see a world in which he would bring his wife and children back to the UK. He described himself as feeling very let down and struggling to forgive a decision that affects me every single day and is knowingly putting me and my family in harm's way. The melodrama is simply exhausting. This is the same man who felt safe and was at Ukraine during an active war, but somehow the UK is too dangerous. Make it make sense. The most damning part of Wharf's critique, though, was his advice to Harry. I think what he should be doing now is actually showing some humility, certainly towards his father. He said humility. That's a quality Harry seems to have completely forgotten. Wharf went on to say that if reconciliation is Harry's goal, this is hardly the way to go about reconciling the differences that exist within your family. That's putting it mildly. How does giving inflammatory interviews implying your family is conspiring against you create the conditions for healing? Wharf even offered Harry some constructive advice, suggesting he should try to begin a way of reconciling with his family and agreeing and approaching both the government and the police to potentially secure better protection. In other words, try diplomacy and cooperation instead of lawsuits and media attacks. What a novel concept. The contrast with how the working royals handle challenges couldn't be more stark. Look at Catherine, who's been quietly dealing with cancer treatment without turning it into a publicity circus. When she needed time away from the spotlight, she simply announced she was taking time for treatment and would return when able. No drama, no endless interviews, just no playing the victim. That's class, folks. That's what a true royal looks like. And King Charles, despite his own cancer diagnosis, he's continued to fulfill his constitutional duties without complaint. Think about that. A 76-year-old man battling cancer who still shows up for state dinners, diplomatic meetings, and ceremonial duties because he understands that the monarchy is bigger than any individual. The crown comes first, personal comfort second. That's the stark difference between the king and his younger son. Speaking of King Charles, let's talk about that other bombshell from Harry's interview where he claimed his father won't speak to me and that he doesn't know how much longer my father has left. Using your father's cancer diagnosis as emotional leverage in a media interview about your security arrangements, that's a new low even for Harry. It's emotional manipulation of the most cynical kind. Worf's comments on this aspect were particularly insightful. He noted that Harry's current situation must be incredibly lonely, and that I'm sure he is ultimately concerned about his father's health. But the implication is clear. If Harry is truly worried about his father's health, why is he giving interviews that can only add stress to a man undergoing cancer treatment? If reconciliation is the goal, why continue to air family business in public? The sad reality is that Harry has created his own isolation. Every bridge he's burned, every relationship he's damaged, every institutional tie he's severed, these were his choices driven by what appears to be Meghan's influence and his own unresolved issues. And now he's facing the consequences in the most public, humiliating way possible, being called out by someone who once dedicated their life to protecting him. And where is Meghan in all this? Conspicuously absent from the BBC interview, but her influence permeates every word Harry speaks. The man who once charmed the world with his down-to-earth nature has been replaced by someone who sounds like he's reading from a script written by someone else. The transformation has been painful to watch. Remember when Harry was known for his ability to connect with people, for his work with wounded veterans through the Invictus Games, for carrying on his mother's legacy with AIDS patients and landmine victims, that Harry seems to be gone, replaced by a man so consumed by perceived slights and media narratives that he's willing to repeatedly hurt his family to prove his point. What's particularly sad about this latest episode is that it shows Harry hasn't learned anything from the past 4 years. He's still using the same tactics, still playing the victim, still expecting the world to bend to his demands while offering nothing in return. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. By that measure, Harry's approach to reconciliation is truly insane. Let's be clear about what reconciliation actually requires. It requires acknowledgement of wrongdoing on both sides. It requires sincere apology. It requires changed behavior that demonstrates a commitment to rebuilding trust. Has Harry offered any of this? Has he acknowledged the hurt caused by his book, by his interviews, by his Netflix series? Has he apologized for sharing private family conversations with the world? Has he changed his behavior in any meaningful way? The answer is a resounding no. Instead, he continues the same pattern of attack, victimhood, and demands, all while claiming he wants reconciliation. It's gaslighting on a global scale. Claim you want peace while actively waging war. Meanwhile, the working royals continue to exemplify the stoicism and sense of duty that has defined the monarchy for generations. William and Catherine, despite personal challenges, continue to represent the crown with dignity and purpose. Their children are being raised with an understanding of service and responsibility, not entitlement and grievance. King Charles, following in his mother's footsteps, puts duty before self, continuing royal engagements even during cancer treatment. Queen Camilla, once the most controversial royal figure, has won respect through consistent, meaningful work rather than publicity stunts and victim narratives. The Home Office's response to Harry's court defeat was measured and professional. We are pleased that the court has found in favor of the government's position in this case. The UK government's protective security system is rigorous and proportionate. It is our long-standing policy not to provide detailed information on those arrangements, as doing so could compromise their integrity and affect individual security. This is the voice of a serious institution making serious decisions about security, not the conspiracy theory Harry wants to portray of an establishment stitch-up. The courts, the government, the police, and now his former protection officer are all in agreement. Harry's security arrangements are appropriate for his current status as a non-working royal living abroad. The fundamental problem with Harry's position is that he wants it both ways. He wants the freedom to live in California, make millions from Netflix and Spotify deals well before Spotify dropped him, criticize the monarchy, and share private royal business with the world. But he also wants the privileges, status, and security that come with being a working royal. It simply doesn't work that way. As Ken Worf so eloquently put it, Harry needs to show some humility. He needs to recognize that actions have consequences. He chose to step down as a working royal. He chose to move to another country. He chose to attack the institution publicly. These were his decisions, and no amount of media interviews or legal challenges can change the reality that flows from them. The irony in all this is that if Harry truly wants better security arrangements when he visits the UK, Worf's advice is spot on. Reconciliation and cooperation would likely yield better results than lawsuits and media attacks. But that would require Harry to admit he might have been wrong, to approach the situation with diplomacy rather than demands, to work within the system rather than attacking it from the outside. And based on his track record, that seems unlikely. The pattern is clear. Harry doesn't get what he wants, so he runs to the media with another sob story, another accusation, another attempt to pressure the royal family and the British government into giving him what he desires without any of the responsibility that comes with it. This latest humiliation, being called out by his former protection officer, is just the latest chapter in what has become a sad tale of self-sabotage. The once beloved prince, adored for his charm, his military service, and his charitable work, has been reduced to a bitter, resentful figure, constantly seeking validation and sympathy. The transformation is heartbreaking to watch. For William, seeing his brother's public unraveling must be particularly painful. Despite the public attacks, the invasion of family privacy, the exploitation of shared trauma, part of him must still remember the brother who was once his closest ally, who understood the unique pressures of their position, who shared the burden of their extraordinary destiny. But that Harry seems to be gone, replaced by someone William barely recognizes. As this royal drama continues to unfold, one thing is clear. The monarchy will survive long after the Sussex saga has faded into a footnote of history. William and Catherine are preparing the next generation of royals with a focus on duty, service, and resilience. King Charles is building on his mother's legacy while making the institution his own. The business of representing Britain continues without missing a beat. That's the final irony of Ken Worf's criticism. Harry thought he was indispensable to the monarchy, but the monarchy has proven it doesn't need him. He thought he could dictate the terms of his relationship with the institution, but the institution has established boundaries he cannot cross. He thought he could have the best of both worlds, royal status without royal responsibility. But as his security case has confirmed, it doesn't work that way. So what do you think, friends? Is Ken Worf right that Harry has played the wrong card in his approach to security concerns? Does Harry need to show more humility, especially towards his father? And is there any path back to reconciliation, or has Harry burned too many bridges to ever rebuild his relationship with the royal family? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more unfiltered royal commentary. Until next time, keep watching the real royal drama unfold. Because as Harry's former bodyguard has just shown us, the truth always comes out in the end. Peace out.